Hello. Today's video is all about thumbnails and painting thumbnails. So this is what I consider to be the best exercise for painting, for practicing without exaggeration. This is probably one of the best painting exercises for improving your art. And what I like about this exercise is that it's very beginner friendly. So this what you're seeing here on the screen, these are some thumbnails that I did. And a thumbnail is just a small painting. Instead of using the entire canvas to paint, like instead of using, the entire screen, you're using just a small portion of the canvas, right? So you can see here how these paintings have a level of detail that is very, very low. Yeah. If you zoom in, you notice that there isn't a lot going on. There's not a lot of detail going on. It's very rough. You can see the brush strokes. For example, this one is very rough. It looks like an abstract painting or something. However, they kind of look like the reference. It's weird. They kind of look like the photo. You can see the photo here on the left. And even though the painting, the study, is very abstract, the shapes are very random and very, very messy in general, it still kind of looks like the reference, especially if you squint your eyes or if you zoom out a lot. You can see how the more you zoom out, the more it looks like the reference, like it's virtually the same picture, right? um, and this is the goal when doing these thumbnails, doing this exercise. The goal is to make a thumbnail, to make a painting that looks very rough when you look very closely, but when you zoom out, it looks a lot more like the photo. It looks a lot more realistic, even though you zoom in, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just a random mess, bunch of lines and stuff. So the way this works, the way this is so useful, the reason why it's so useful is because it forces you to simplify things. So if you're a beginner or if you're struggling with painting, whatever, if you don't know where to start, this is where to start. This is the way. Absolutely. I will 100% of the times push this exercise to people who are starting out. I wish I had done this before when I was a beginner, because this really teaches you a lot. This exercise is magnificent. And the goal here, just this is very important. Yeah, so you know what we're gonna be doing. I'm gonna show you a bunch of examples later. You're gonna watch me paint in real time and stuff. So you'll see the entire process from start to finish. Don't worry. The idea is that if you look closely to the eyes, for example, I did not paint the eyes. Instead of painting the eyes, I painted just like this weird shape, this random shape that is not really an eye. This doesn't look like an eye, or the same thing with the lips. I just did literally two brush strokes, and it doesn't look like the lips or the nose. If you look at each individual facial feature, it's not going to make sense. This is the point, okay? It doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to detail the face enough or the eye enough that it looks like an eye. That's not the point, okay? So the goal is that you only focus on the shapes and the values. So the eye doesn't make sense, the nose doesn't make sense. These parts don't make sense individually, but when you zoom out and when you look at the entire thing, everything compounded, now it starts to look sense to make sense overall. Now it starts to look like something. Now it starts to look like the face. This is how we achieve the likeness, right? When we're doing a study, with a photo, with like this photograph here, for example. You see how this is very detailed dense. It has a lot of, like, if you zoom in, you have a lot of people, you have a lot of details and shapes and lines everywhere. And if I wanted to make a study of this, you could probably figure this would be a bit of a pain in the ass, to study, make so much detail. So what did I do? I just made it super, super small so those details completely vanish. They don't exist. You want to get rid of that, okay? You want to get rid of all of those details so you can only focus on the most important shapes that you see. So, what are the most important shapes here? This shape, this red shape, or this orange shape. These are the more graphical. So, again, if you try to compare these two like this, this would be very abstract. It wouldn't really make sense. It's like, what the fuck am I even looking at? But if you zoom out, they are virtually the same. Like, it's, I hope you understand now. Like, it's very interesting, very, very weird, but it works. It works for this very reason. And you want to achieve the same thing with your actual paintings, right? Because you might say, I don't want to paint thumbnails. I want to paint real, actual big ass paintings. Like I want to use the entire screen, and I understand that. I like painting like that as well. Of course, I don't only exclusively do thumbnails. I also do like full paintings. However, the way I approach those full paintings is the exact same way I approach the thumbnail. So if I zoom in on this portrait, for example, let's make it big. So I can make this big. Let's say this is a big painting that I'm working on. I would approach it the exact same way. Like this would be the early stage of a painting. So once the overall structure is established, like here, I would say, okay, the overall values and shape are already established. So what I would do is zoom in a little bit and then start refining the details and stuff. But this is the first stage. This is what I want you to understand. This is the first stage. Every single thumbnail you're watching here, they look rough, but this is the first stage of every finished painting, even every hyper realistic painting. Okay, this is a stage you can't skip. You can't neglect. 100% of the paintings you make have to have a stage like this where it looks very rough. So since this is something we can't get rid of, we can't get rid of this stage of the painting of the process. We might as well practice this a lot, right? Doesn't that make sense? So this is why I love doing the thumbnails because they also take no time. If you're anything like me, if you run out of energy after making one full painting, like I can make at least one painting a day, like normally. Like I can probably force myself to do two after I get burnout, but I don't have a lot of art energy. However, I can do a lot of these thumbnails in a day, and I will not run out of energy or I will not get tired. So if you're anything like me and you also get tired a lot by painting or you feel kind of lazy, this exercise, like each of these took me like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah, 10 to 15 minutes. That's right. So let's go into the actual process. I'm going to show you in real time how I paint, just so you can follow along better, because I know there are people who like watching the entire thing. And also, since this don't really take too long, I could probably do a few in real time just to show you. Okay, so here I have this photo that I found on Pinterest, and I'm gonna make a thumbnail. I'm gonna make a study of this photo, and I wanted to choose a portrait because I feel like it's the most general thing, right? Who doesn't like painting people? So if you zoom in, you'll notice that this photo has a lot of detail. It has a lot of tiny details everywhere. So we're gonna get rid of that by making it very tiny. So what I do is, I paste the photo that I'm gonna paint here on the canvas, and then I make it small, probably this small. By the way, you're seeing my entire screen. You're seeing exactly what I'm seeing. So this is the exact same distance. I'm not zooming in. I don't have like, I'm not zooming in whilst I do the study or anything. So what I do after I paste it, like I have here, I have the photo, and right next to the photo, I make like this little rectangle. It's not difficult. And we're not gonna make a sketch, by the way. When I'm doing these thumbnails, I don't make sketches. Like if I was gonna make a big painting, I would 9 times out of 10, I would make a sketch. But here, since the idea is that we get rid of all the planning and all the complications, that we keep it simple, and that we make it as least intimidating as we can. We're gonna just paint the shapes instead. Okay, so we always start from back to front. So in this case, I'm gonna start painting the background. I'm gonna start painting the background. I'm gonna probably even make this smaller a little bit, yeah. I'm just gonna paint this. That doesn't really matter too much. Like greenish hue. I'm gonna end up getting rid of most of this color anyways. So then I'm gonna paint the hair which is the darkest value. So I'm gonna be painting the hair right here. You always want to start with the darkest value first, which is usually the hair or the background, and then you move on to the face. Let me make it darker, uh, just a little bit. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, so here I have the face. We're using shapes again, very simple. And we're gonna keep refining things. Yeah, just like that. Okay. So here we have like this is the base, uh, the base structure for the painting. So now it's just a matter of refining the shapes that we have already established. These are like the overall shapes. So let's do that. Gonna do all this in like I'm gonna do a few of the thumbnails in real time. From start to finish. Just for the people who want to watch the entire thing. And since it's a bit complicated for me to focus on painting and talking at the same time, I'm also gonna be making another bunch of I'm gonna make a time lapse that is sped up, and I'm gonna make a voiceover. So I'm just gonna talk over it, so I can focus more on what I'm saying instead and giving you like proper tips and stuff. So yeah, big shapes, big shapes. Let me make this. Especially in the beginning, yeah, you want to start with very big shapes. You see how the face. I didn't start with the eyes. I can't see the eyes from this distance, right? So what we're gonna be doing just painting the overall colors. Then I could probably get a small slightly darker color and start detailing a little bit. Okay, okay, we're doing fine. We're doing fine. Yeah, it's very important that you focus on painting not the eyes, not the lips, not the face, but the areas, like whether the shape or the area you're painting is bright or dark. So, for example, the forehead here, I'm not painting the forehead, I'm just painting a bright shape. So you're gonna focus on that. You're gonna paint the shape, not the object. And once you understand this, you can paint anything you want. Once you start looking at things in as individual things that you have to know how to paint. Because painting is not like drawing. because when you're drawing, you have to know how the object you're drawing works. But in this case, when you're painting from a photo, for example, that you're looking at the object, you don't have to really understand the object. Matter of fact, the less you understand the object, the better, because that will allow you to focus on what you see and not what you know it's there, right? So this is why we're making the thumbnails, by the way, because the smaller we make everything, the less we know what we're painting, kind of, and we can only focus on the light and dark areas and the colors as well, yeah. But you can also do like grayscale thumbnails in grayscale if you feel like color is too difficult. So we're getting there. You can see how quickly everything comes together. Okay, so this is basically it. I think I could probably call it here. I would probably try I'll try to render the face a little bit more so it's not super flat. I'm really adding the lips here. Oh, the green highlight. Yeah, let me make it look a lot better. And the nose. Let's make the slider. Oh yeah, this is perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna make this tiny bit smaller, just to add like the hair, the two hairs here that are hanging on the forehead. And that's basically it. There I have my city. Yep. So I can try to make a landscape as well because yeah, who doesn't like painting landscapes? Okay, let's try with a landscape. Okay, so here I have this photo that I took myself, and I'm gonna try to like just do the exact same thing. Like it follows the same concept where you're painting a person, where you're painting an animal, where you're painting um this thing, a landscape or something. So we're gonna be doing the exact same method, the exact same like square thing, like this. Perfect. So, since remember I told you to start from back to front or from from the background. We first start painting the background, but since this is, you know, a landscape, we don't really have a background or like what would we paint first? Because this is important, right? This is where a lot of artists crumble and struggle to uh, begin adding color and stuff. So remember, if you don't have a clear background, or if you can't start painting the background first, you always start with the darkest value. So the darkest value is the top part here. We can make it a little bit greenish. So we start kind of defining. Yeah, we might as well paint the entire thing like this color. It doesn't matter. Okay. And then we're gonna paint the most prevalent color, which in this case is this orange tone, this orange color. And we're gonna paint that. We're gonna paint that. Again, don't color pick from the photo. You really want to, you know, learn to pick your own colors here while making the studies. It's gonna help you a lot. So now we have 50% of the study done basically. Uh, just gonna polish a little bit the shape, the background here, this thing and this thing. Good. Okay. We always go from dark to light. Again, from back to front, dark to light. This just gotta be a lot easier, you know. Now we have this bush. There we go. This is this is our thumbnail. We can choose to, you know, keep it this rough, which yeah, it's very rough, but it's technically uh encapsulates the entire thing, right? Let's paint the highlights a little bit. Let's actually make this look pretty. Mm, adding the water reflections. Oh yeah. Yeah, perfect. It's looking better now. It's looking a lot more. more like the photo. Can probably make the water a little lighter. Oh yeah, that's perfect. I'm very tempted to leave the study here. It already looks quite interesting for some reason. Yeah, that's basically it. Well, I really like this. Looks very impressionistic. Looks very minimalistic. And, you know, I'm probably ruining by adding more details. Let me add this like pole because I I want to add like the water reflections. Let's see. I think it looks okay. Yeah, it looks decent. So, this is how you do a thumbnail from start to finish. I think the trickiest part is to actually know how to start it. You know, how to go from dark to light. Like, how do you start painting only using shapes? I feel like that can be a bit intimidating. So, yeah, hopefully you now know how to do it. It's not super complicated. So let's actually go and make another random bunch of studies, because since this is a full guide, I want to have more than two studies. So let's actually go do some more. Okay, guys, so here I'm starting to do the thumbnails. Here I'm starting to do like a bunch of random portraits of people. I think all of them are just portraits of faces. I don't know. I just like painting faces a lot. That's my warm up. That's like just my comfort zone. Um, but anyways, here I'm doing the thumbnails, very small, focusing on the shapes. I think everything I had to say about the thumbnails, I already said it, but yeah, just in case I missed something, this is just the exact same way I approach. I did with the last studies that I showed you. This is the exact same method. I start with a little square. I start adding the colors. I always start with the background. In this case, the background was black, was kind of dark. So I started with that, and then I moved with the I moved on with the peop with the person with the face. So you can see I'm starting to, I'm adding details. I'm adding like the details I'm able to add because I can still add some level of detail. It's just not super great or anything, right? It's just like big detail, but it's detail at the end of the day, I think. So yeah, this portrait started a little bit rough. wasn't liking it too much at first, but I really I feel like I managed to capture the aesthetic of the photo. I'm doing another face of this girl. Like all these portraits are from Pinterest. That's where I find the people I paint, my victims. So also doing the exact same thing. You can see the way it starts very messy, like the shapes, everything. They don't make sense at first, but once I start, you gotta trust the process a little bit for like the first 3 minutes, and once I start adding some more shapes, some more values, everything starts to make a little bit more sense. So again, I'm only focusing on the shapes that are lighter and the shapes that are darker. So the forehead and the hair have a very bright highlight, and I that's basically the first thing I wanted to emphasize because that sets like that contrast with the rest of the face. And I'm trying to get the colors as well. I'm trying to maybe exaggerate the colors a little bit, trying to get the match the vibe of the photo. Um, this face was a little bit rough. Like I for some reason I struggled to paint the eyes. Well, it's not that I struggled to paint the eyes. I struggled to make them look good. I struggle to make them like in this thumbnail fashion. It's kind of difficult because the eyes are very little and you can still see the eye pupil, but I'm always a bit reluctant to add the eyes because I feel like I'm gonna ruin the entire simplicity and harmony of the entire portrait. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Here started another portrait, but for some reason the recording got damaged or something. I don't know why it didn't record like a portion of the thumbnails I was doing. But yeah, I'm doing the exact same thing with this. It's very important that you always start with the background. Always. If you're not gonna start with the sketch, at least that let that be your guide, your reference. So yeah, always big shapes. Always big shapes. There will be a point where you want to use a super tiny brush, and you want to detail a certain area. Maybe it's the hair, maybe it's the the eyebrows, and probably not gonna be able to. Like you're gonna struggle a little bit making the brush super small, and you're gonna think, I wish I could make it. I wish I could zoom in. I wish I could make it smaller. I wish I could have more control over what I'm doing. That's good. It's good that you're not able to you have to hold back when it comes to adding that amount of detail. You can see here I'm not even painting the eyes, I'm just painting the shape because I know if I wanted to paint the actual eye in the eyebrow, I'm gonna have to zoom in as well. This is another portrait. Like I don't know why I got like they didn't record this process of this portrait either. um so here I'm starting another one, and I'm mostly again I here again I started with the colors with the background, and I'm trying to get accurate colors as well. I'm trying to get like this greenish tone, greenish color, um, and everything like every other color I choose is on this greenish hue. So you can see how even in this very rough stage, it starts to look very good, like very similar to the reference, at least in terms of color and value. It looks like a 3D models or something, like a very rough 3D model. Um, but yeah, you don't have to get super detailed with the with the details. You don't have to get super um, complex, especially like with the background. I'm not even focusing on each individual shape of the background. I'm just doing random shapes that I feel like get close to the original values on the reference. The same thing with the face. Like I was having a bit of a hard time here with the face because I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to paint the eyes because I feel like that would kind of ruin the entire simplicity of the face, and it would catch a lot of unnecessary attention unwanted attention, like focal attention. So, I tried my best to simplify that as well. You have to get creative. This is like a puzzle that, you keep trying to figure out. The more shapes you add, the more values you keep adding. But I feel like values are the most important thing here. It doesn't matter if your shapes look overly messy or they don't make a lot of sense and they're kind of all over the place. As long as your values look fine, everything should look fine as well. We also have this other photo, and I was struggling a little bit with this one because I couldn't neglect the facial features, so I had to figure out how to make it in a way that looked good. But yeah, I was struggling a little bit. It's looking very rough here. I eventually figured it out. I tried to add that red bounce light, which in my mind is not even like bounce light or anything. It's just a red shape. The neck looks red. Okay, the face is greenish. That's what I'm gonna paint. That's what I'm gonna focus on painting. So I also here started with the background. I just want to emphasize how important it is to start the right way. You start painting the darkest value first, and then you move with the lighter values. Because if I was gonna do it the other way around, it would have been unnecessarily freaking hard. So you don't really want to go through that. Um, so yep, here I'm trying to polish a little bit the facial features because I feel like I was overcomplicating myself a little bit. I ended up saying, oh, yeah, it's a thumbnail. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I left it like that. Uh, as long as it captures the overall appeal and vibe of the photo, you can call it a successful study. So, uh, we're moving to this other portrait. I really like the way this started out. It started very simple, very like the shapes. I really like the shapes now that I look back to it. The shapes on the face and the way they kind of blend with the hands. So yeah, I'm just trying to find a way to simplify this as well. It can be tricky sometimes. You have here like the nails, the red nails, and it's like, okay, how do I simplify this without going too small or too detailed? So that's something you gotta keep in mind as well. So here that the hat as well. When you have like letters, words on a like a the photo, the shirt or hat in this case. So I had to squint and use a little bit of creativity to not get caught into little shapes and lines with the letters there. So there's another portrait here. And I'm just doing the same thing, like literally. I feel like it would be redundant to keep repeating myself this much, but yeah, it's just so it remains ingrained in your brain. All the things that you need to do a proper thumbnail. So I'm also focusing on the colors, mostly the values, and you will get way better values if you start with and color make better color decisions if you start with the darkest the background first with the darkest value, and then you move on with because imagine if I was going to make the face with the white background with the white canvas. Painting on a white canvas will throw you off in terms of color. It will make your color decisions uh, a lot worse. So you also want to start. You always want to start with like the background and stuff. Um, and this is the last portrait, I think, because we're already running out of space. So this one, I really like the way it started to. It started very smoothly, and yeah, I try to average every color, every value on the face and the skin. You see how if you zoom in on the arm, for example, the shoulder, or the face, you actually have a lot of different values, value transitions and colors and stuff. But it's just a matter of averaging everything, making everything just one instead of the 100 that you might have, or probably 50 to 20 to 50 value transitions. just make one value and then keep adding another one. And you keep going from big to small and do it very progressively. Um, so yeah, I think I actually think this is all for the time lapse. Here I'm keeping adding the final details, the final values, and yeah, here you can see we reached the end. We reached the end of this video. So I don't think there's anything else I should add to this. I think I said everything I had to say. So if anything, if you have any questions about this or anything, you can ask me on the Discord and the community. So I'll answer you there. I'm very excited to see your studies, so make sure to share them in the community. And yeah, this is all for the thumbnail beta class. So I'll see you in the next guide. Take care.